It is common, the most common cause of death in this country.
Mariah was in a class where she was so fortunate to have people who had just had refresher's course. And if that device hadn't been present, she can't handle any more damage.
The ones that doesn't happen, we don't see. They don't get to the hospital.
My name is Mariah Burzell, and I'm alive today because of an AED and CPR. I had gone down. It was my first day back in that class after about a month. I had actually been just cleared to go back to full exercise. Everything was feeling okay, and then all of a sudden I started getting tunnel vision, which I had had happen before. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a knee, because usually it passes, and then the tunnel kept getting more and more constrict.
The strangest experience I'd ever had, most surreal, was listening to an ambulance going by and knowing they were going to where she was.
Another member of the gym had come to check on me and had announced, I don't think she's breathing. The instructor immediately hit the panic button, turned off the music, sent somebody up to the front desk to let them know that they were having a medical emergency. She came and checked my pulse and found none. And I remember the paramedics over me to when I first got to the hospital, where it was a bit blurry, like I couldn't tell you the day, but I knew important things that were happening that day.
The doctor did a cardiac MRI.
He was concerned. He recognized something that he was used to seeing that wasn't just strictly fixable by the evaluation. So he had the cardiac MRI,
Yeah.
and that's when they spotted the defect.
And that's when he called Estes in.
Sudden cardiac arrest is the abrupt withdrawal of normal cardiac function because of an electrical abnormality. With it, the heart stops pumping immediately. People lose consciousness and collapse. It is the most common cause of death in this country. The clock is ticking, and the survival rates go down by about 10% every minute that somebody doesn't get that kind of medical attention. Importantly, it's treatable.
Mariah was in a class where she was so fortunate to have people who had just had refresher's course. They recognized what was going on so quickly, and they weren't intimidated by hitting the button to shock her. So her heart was stopped for a couple of minutes instead of much longer.
It's treatable by having broad public awareness of how to respond when somebody collapses. That recognition is key. You call 911 or have someone call 911. The second thing you do is to start hands-only CPR.
I had the best worst case scenario. A facility that had training on what to do. They had somebody bringing the AED even before everything was registered with the panic button. I had a nurse giving me CPR, and I had somebody that just received training, so it was still fresh in their head.
It's a very important point that calling 911 and starting CPR with just chest compressions is just as effective as giving the rescue breath. And importantly, this can be done by anyone. If they're prepared for it, they're in a much better position.
The silver lining of this is that now people are more aware. They're seeing that people can be saved in minutes instead of having to be damaged for the rest of their life.
They happen in remote locations in which you may be the only one there. Don't hesitate. Respond, start CPR after you've called 911.
It's one of the most important and less complicated things you can learn to do in your life. If it's something that is considered common knowledge because it's commonly trained, it becomes a less scary concept.
The American Heart Association is an organization that is very strategic with its resources. That includes its human resources, the research community, and their fiscal resources. The funds that come in through donation to the American Heart Association are used strategically to save lives and improve the quality of life.
There's those moments of, what if this had happened? And you just kind of have to sit back and go, but it didn't happen, because I was in a place where people knew what they were doing, where people knew how to use an AED, that they knew to call 911.
It's not a matter of if it's going to save a life, it's when it will. And that's an important thing to consider when you attend these heart balls, when you volunteer, when you give, when you learn, and when you cheer.
And thank you for everything you're doing, because I still have my daughter.